the rule number one is do no harm, right? Right. A lot of us, my job is just to move the boulders out of the road to make sure that creative talent can get where they need to go. Provide backup, provide scope, provide generalized, advice on where we can take this as an industry and as a gaming culture. But honestly, we've got 13 studios worldwide.
Sony and the PlayStation team, they've had a great year. They have really brought out the exclusives for everybody, and they've continued to have a strong third-party support as usual. I mean, third-party has never really been a problem for either, Sony or Microsoft. But when it came to bringing out the exclusives and giving us great exclusives, just in general, this generation, Sony's been killing it, and it's just been it's just been business as usual for Sony. They did have a few missteps this year, and I'll go ahead and talk about that later on in this video. But just starting at the first part of this year, they had a bunch of great third-party games coming out. Most notably, Yakuza 6, April 17th of this year, and Yakuza. That's one of the franchises that is really getting a lot more popular here in the States. And then, after April 17th, just a few days later, we had the bomb that was God of War. So, God of War, this game is, it's for the most part, it's been very well received when it comes to the games industry. It just won Game of the Year at the Game Awards. It broke records, and while I'm not the biggest fan of this new iteration of God of War for reasons, but I can honestly say it was it had a great story, and people were really gravitating to it, and a lot of people, and I can say this, it brought a lot of people into the God of War franchise that weren't really fans of the original games. And then, after God of War, we got Detroit Become Human. And while some people didn't necessarily like some of the story plots with like some of the characters, and it was a bit heavy-handed when it came to some of its themes and stuff, but overall, the game sold very well, and it was pretty favorable with a lot of the critics. It sold 2 million copies, and I didn't mention this earlier, that came out May 25th, 2018. So at the beginning of the year, Sony was doing really, really good. It was in June when E3 rolled around where they kind of stumbled a little bit. Now, their E3 presentation, and I'm a fan of Sony, I'm a fan of Microsoft, I'm a fan of Nintendo. I usually consider myself a neutral, and some people might think that I'm a fanboy of Sony or Microsoft or whatever. That's not the case. I can honestly say, like, every year I always say Sony's E3 is getting better and better and better. Sony knocked their E3 presentations out of the park these last few years, especially in, I believe, 2015 or 2016, whenever they announced like Final Fantasy VII and Crash and stuff. But this year, Sony dropped the freaking ball. They had one of the worst E3 presentations. I think this is even worse than what like Nintendo used to do. Like, obviously Nintendo doesn't do E3 conferences anymore. They do the Nintendo Directs because they want to be able to control the messaging with a lot of their stuff. And they honestly, when it comes to Nintendo, they're not the best when it comes to like putting on live presentations. And we can see that even in their reveal for the Switch. But with Sony, they've always been good. I don't know what it was this year. Maybe they were just trying something different. They were going for more of a atmospheric type of thing with the way that they were structuring their presentation. So for the people that actually went to the E3 presentation, they probably had more enjoyment than us that were watching it, on the computer. Because what they did, they were basically taking people through these rooms, through these sets or whatever, that kind of mimic the video games that they were showing off. They had one for The Last of Us, for Ghost of Tsushima, and I believe one more game. And the problem with their presentation, for one thing, they had basically what amounts to commercials or intermissions in their conference, which is that's a bad thing to do. I mean, I would have rather they had just a whole montage of games in between trying to shift people from room to room. But the way that they did it, it was just so bad. It was poorly paced. Like I said, when it comes to the presentation of Sony's conference, it wasn't very good. But when it came to the games that they showed, I'm not a big fan of The Last of Us when it comes to the gameplay department. I believe the Last of Us 2, it looked madly scripted. And I'll keep saying that until they prove me otherwise. It looked very scripted what they showed, but a lot of people enjoyed that. Ghost of Tsushima, that game looks like a PS5 game. And then they showed off a bunch of other games, Neo 2, what's that Quantum Break game? I can't even remember the name of it, but it looked pretty cool. I can't even remember the name of it, so I apologize. But they showed off a lot of great games. So they showed off some really good games at their conference overall. But overall, I thought their conference was the weakest that they've had in years, and honestly, they did worse than Microsoft and Nintendo. I thought Microsoft and Nintendo did very well when it came to E3. Now, moving on from E3 in June, so Sony, at this point, Fortnite just getting popular, just making a lot of money, getting a lot of kids into this game, getting a lot of kids into to Fortnite. And at this point, we had Microsoft and Nintendo working together on crossplay because people were complaining. You know, I'm playing Fortnite over here. I want my progress to basically carry over. I don't want to have to buy this outfit or this this costume or whatever. I don't want to have to buy my stuff over here or play the game over here and then not have my progression crossover or whatever. You know, I'm not going to pretend to know the ins and outs of Fortnite. I don't play that game. But I'll say this, you know, even though I think Fortnite is a fad, I think it's going to die off. It did bring, the popularity of this game, it did bring something cool to happen. Where Microsoft and Nintendo were working together, and then Sony was like, we're afraid for, our younger audience or whatever. And I'm paraphrasing, but basically Sony had this stance on crossplay where they're trying to protect their community, and it was just a bunch of BS really. But they reneged on their crossplay stance, and then now Fortnite can basically be played. You can basically cross-play with anybody. So you can play PC, PS4, Xbox, Nintendo, on the phone, on your tablet. You can play with anybody basically, and that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool thing. Other than that, later on in the year, Sony, they continued to drop a lot of fire games. Dragon Quest 11 came out September 4th. It didn't meet sales expectations when it came to Square Enix, but it was definitely reviewed well when it came to the critics. Now, I can't really speak on this game because, I bought the game, I haven't played it yet, but I heard it's really good. Now, Spider-Man came out September 7th, 2018. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, September 7th, 2018. And this game, I feel like it is gone. It should have won Game of the Year, and it's not getting the love that it deserves. It's not getting the love that it deserves. It had one of the best stories of a game this year, and the only game that I believe kind of, in my opinion, that rivals Spider-Man when it came to the story at least was God of War. Spider-Man, gameplay-wise, story-wise, very well produced. The game was very well received. It sold 3.3 million copies in 3 days. It beat out God of War, because at first God of War was breaking records. At first God of War was like Sony's fastest selling game for this generation. Spider-Man completely killed it. And I did a prediction. I believe I did a prediction like way before this game came out. I said that this game is going to outsell God of War. It's going to outsell all the Sony games or whatever. I did some type of prediction. And I was worried because Spider-Man is a big franchise. It's so big. It's way bigger than God of War. More people know about Spider-Man than they do about Kratos, than they do about God of War and its mythos. That game sold 3.3 million copies in 3 days and basically became the fastest selling first-party video game in PlayStation history. And it deserves it. It deserves all the accolades. It deserves the good sales and everything. Spider-Man, that was one of their best games of this year. And I believe after that, it's just been a bunch of third-party games. We had Call of Duty, Battlefield, just the third-party games that you would expect to come out on PlayStation and Xbox One also. Overall, I thought Sony had a really good year this year. Outside of their E3, they had a really good year, and they're taking strides to finally give people what they want when it comes to online, I guess you can say services wise or whatever. It's no mystery behind this. I can't even find the right words right now, but people have been wanting this for a while. They've been wanting changing their names when it comes to their online IDs and stuff. People have been wanting that, and Sony, they've been having troubles. They said how complicated it would be to basically have people to allow people to basically change their PSN IDs. Xbox, that's one thing I can say Xbox has been excelling at from the beginning, because you've been able to basically change your gamer tag for a while when it comes to Xbox. And Xbox really succeeds when it comes to services, whereas Sony has kind of been lagging behind them. PlayStation Now it doesn't hold a candle when it comes to Xbox Game Pass if you compare it. And Sony is taking strides to basically make their services better. Even with PlayStation Now, they're bringing out PlayStation 4 games up there, and I believe now they're allowing you to actually download the games, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they're allowing you to download the games. And so now they're taking steps. I think what they're seeing how successful Game Pass is, and they're trying to make PlayStation Now just as good as Game Pass. And so this competition is definitely needed. It's definitely helping Sony to grow, especially when it comes to PlayStation services. And like I said, people have been wanting this name change thing for a while. I'm not somebody who really plays online like that, so it's not a huge deal for me, but it's a huge deal for a lot of other people. And like I said, there's no mystery behind this. We all know what Sony has been saying for years when it comes to this. It's something about the way that they designed PlayStation Network architecture when they were first coming out with the PlayStation 3 and everything, and coming out with their online network, their online infrastructure, whatever. It's something about the way that they implemented the IDs, and so now they're actually going to be allowing you to change your names in the future. So overall, PlayStation, they're taking strides to get better when it comes to services. And as far as their game output, when it comes to their video games, first party and third party support, they've been killing it, and they're going to probably continue to kill it. The only question mark, the only things that we really have to worry about is when it comes to E3 2019. Now, when it comes to E3 2019, Sony announced that they're not going to be at E3 2019. And even this year, they weren't at PSX. They didn't do a PSX presentation. Mainly because, and a lot of people are speculating, it's probably because they didn't really have a lot to show off. I mean, all of the games that most of the big games, they're out now. Spider-Man and God of War, and then the only games we really have really to look forward to now when it comes to first party that we know of is Ghost of Tsushima, Death Stranding, and The Last of Us 2, and there might be another game that I'm missing there. But, oh yeah, Days Gone also. So those are the only games that we know that, we have to look forward to. And those games, we can predict that at least 2 of those games are coming out 2019, at least 2. But when it came to PSX, they decided to not do it. And with E3 2019, they decided that they're not going to show up. And so that has me kind of concerned for E3 2019, because Sony has really been the highlight of E3 outside of this year, because like I said, they kind of faltered. So it's up to Microsoft and Nintendo to really carry the load when it comes to E3 2019. But it does kind of beg the question, you know, is that and a lot of analysts have been predicting, you know, when that PlayStation 5 is coming out, whether it's coming out 2019, 2020, or whatever. Honestly, I feel like they should wait for the PlayStation 5. It feels like the PlayStation 4 just came here, man. It feels like that joint just came out. I believe if I just had to give a guess, I would say PlayStation 5 2020. Maybe we get some type of news, some type of event. Maybe they'll do a separate event. You know, they haven't. I don't think they said that they're not gonna have a PSX next year. So maybe they're gonna do a big PSX instead of doing E3 2019, and then maybe we get some news regarding PlayStation 5 and some other games that might still be coming to the PlayStation 4. But yeah, overall, Sony has done a great job this year, and their future is still looking bright. If I had to give them a score, I'd probably just give them an 8 out of 10, whereas other years they would probably be sitting at a 9 or a 10 or whatever. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought about Sony's PlayStation this year. And I did other reviews for Nintendo and Microsoft also, just in case you guys want to check those out. Yeah, thank you guys for watching though. Like the video, subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.